Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Single best idea on a Friday, and we got through the week. Maybe even got through the month of July. Remember that, long ago and far away? On economics, finance, investment, indeed on international relations, maybe this weekend we survive into the end of August and dash into the autumn. We did it today with good conversations. Ben Emmons was just wonderful about what to look for at Jackson Hole. All of a sudden, an important speech by Chairman Powell to reset his vision, his belief. I think that'll be a huge topic for us next week. Steven Englander, I asked for 4 or 5 days ago in his busy schedule at Standard Charter, the giant of cross-rate analysis. Steven Englander joined us. We talked about the discreteness of the Japan events versus the Western events of slowing economies. Here is Steven Englander of Standard Charter Bank.
I think that the big markets trade we saw in the West was basically a recession trade. That anybody looking at the unemployment rate chart on Friday said, wow, this looks like every other downturn in the U.S. and, the unemployment rate's going to go up another 2 percentage points. I think the Japanese carry trade was a big deal for Asian currencies because the weakness of the yen had dragged down CNH, had dragged down Korean won, all its neighbors. And I think that the unwinding of that trade sort of, unwound a lot of popular trades in the FX market. But, I don't think it was like a systemic force. I think it was just, people realizing that, the yen moving 10% means that they were wrong in shorting it.
The broader economics from the PhD from Yale, Steven Englander, Standard Charter Bank. Lots of good equity voices this week. Let's take the optimistic view. Brian Belsky, BMO Capital Markets, yesterday, just on fire. Where's the bottom? He doesn't know. He says, climb on board. And then you've got a lot of others cautious, a reaffirmation from J.P. Morgan on their caution. Others measured all sorts of nuances in between. And then they have to write, and this is something I want to talk about here. I think it's important. One of the great, great fictions is that on Wall Street, people worry about what people say. And what global Wall Street knows is far more important is what people write. I can't say this enough, which is gospelism, blah, 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 like on Bloomberg Surveillance. Gospel is a 6-page note on a Tuesday written after a 4-hour layover at O'Hare in Chicago. So we really worry about what people write. Julian Emanuel at Evercore ISI writes during earnings season a brilliant 2-page note with a 1-paragraph summary at the bottom of what revenue dynamics and earning dynamics are doing. It is absolutely must-read on Wall Street. After this week, Julian Emanuel, Evercore ISI.
When you have volatility, and it wasn't just the equity markets, and it was, Japan's equity market was down 10%. FX went crazy. Interest rates went crazy. That kind of, sort of cumulative within the context of thinking about all the events in July that transpired politically, if nothing else, such that we got to a point where earlier this week, everything we were thinking about, virtually everything, was called into question. But you put it all together, and I think, the reason the market responded so positively to the weekly jobless claims, the most on-the-ground statistic, is because the recession is not in sight. And frankly, what this does is what it typically does when conditions get this tight. We all know the Bloomberg Financial Conditions Index, is it resets that wall of worry. And that's very important for bull markets to be feeding on.
Julian Emanuel, Evercore ISI, on Bloomberg Financial Conditions Index, something to watch there. And the pros are watching the incredible dynamics between accommodative and restrictive. One of the things we've learned in the recent months with this wonderful rollout of YouTube, we've completely I have completely underestimated the international reach of YouTube. We're absolutely humbled by the statistics, the granularity that we see. We're rolling out a whole campaign to take the Pacific Rim from Jakarta and Singapore up north to Japan and all the way over to the huge YouTube community known as India. That'll be something you'll see here in the coming weeks. Not so much conversations. The conversations will still be very much American and Wall Street based, but we're very cognizant of the reach of YouTube. To get there, subscribe, go search rather, to YouTube, Bloomberg Podcasts. Everything's under Bloomberg Podcasts. And search and subscribe to Bloomberg Podcasts to pick up all the great work that we're doing. We're on Apple CarPlay, Android Auto as well. On Apple Podcasts, this is Single Best Idea.